it's gyan. It's pure gyan, purest kind. Isme, there's 18 topics. So with that, just as a reminder, the first chapter was Arjuna Vishada-yoga. Like, I'll just walk you through and then maybe open up the conversation. Like, how have you tracked? What have you observed along the way? If this was an 18-mile journey, like how did it feel? Arjuna Vishada-yoga naturally was the very first opening, that distraught, despaired, dukhi, vati, pidi. Just again reminder. A few highlights in that नयोद सेति गोविंद, जैसे दूसरे अध्याय में आता है, उसके सेटिंग पहले अध्याय में थी कि ये क्या करना है, what am I doing, किम नो राज्येन गोविंद किम भोगे जीवितेन, what will I do with all this, if it's with the खून से सने हुए, all the bloodshed. We had reminder, the first shloka of the first chapter starts with a question. So take Krishna asks 10 questions in the Gita. Arjuna asks 20 questions. So there's about 32, 33 questions that are verses that are in the form of questions out of the 700. If you take it to mean, roughly 5% of the Gita is in the form of question, right? 700 verses, 5% is 35. No? So roughly 5% of the Gita is in the form of questions. And what I shared with you, interesting data point, Einstein had said, if I had 100 minutes to save the world, I would take 95 to understand what the question is, and the remaining 5% would be enough for me to solve the problem, whatever it is. So it's not exactly one-for-one match. I just found it interesting that a portion of it.
That is. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It kind of points that.
And the Lord asks questions and the devotee asks questions, so double. This talks to the equity aspect, or the autonomy, or the psychological safety, that Bhagwan ne 10 questions puche to ye to 20 puch raha hai, question to question.
Actually, I find that more interesting. I didn't know that Krishna asked 10 questions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe the rhetorical type.
No. Ashantas, grammatically question. Ashantas kutas sukham. Like one of the questions in the beginning, he says, the second chapter, how can you be peaceful? How can you be happy if you don't have peace? That's a question. It's like that we have to think about. You could say that's a rhetorical question, but it's actually grammatically also. Actually, kuta is how, why. And it's like in fact, the first word, that Krishna opens his mouth, the first word is in the form of a question. Kutastva kashmalamida. Now, how come? What happened? Why? Have you fallen into this? He ends with the question also. Krishna, the last thing he said, like, do you understand all this properly? And I've elaborated all this, but do you follow? Before saying yathichasi tatha kuru ki jo karna ho karna, but I'm hoping that you follow. Did you understand? Did you? So first word is question, and the last is like in the form of question, and there are questions in between also. Throughout. So there are about 10 questions, but Arjuna asked 28 of them are just straight out of shot. In the 8th chapter, 8वें अध्याय के शुरुआत में धार 8 पहले अर्जुन एक के पीछे क्वेश्चन पूछता है, किम पुरुषम, किम ब्रह्म, किम अध्यात्म, किम कर्म. What is karma? What is adhyatma? What is this? What is that? Like in a series of eight questions at the beginning of the 8th chapter out of the 20. So it's important. One of the sessions that I'd done in Nagpur when I was visiting was just focus on that, like the questions raised in the Gita. There's the significance of the questions, because these are meaningful, loaded, very powerful questions. And Madhu, you and I talk at times that it's really strategies and like the kinds of questions you ask, right? How do you position the question? What question do you ask? Are almost as, if not more, meaningful than the answer to it, because they have a way to align your thinking. They put boundaries around our thinking. I want you to focus on this in answering this question. And isliye questions are very powerful if rightly asked. And it's also poignant that the first question, that the first verse of the Gita is in the form of a question, and that's it's a sad question. What's happening between those who are mine and those who are not mine? That's the destructive stage of this war, Dhritarashtra saying.
Dhritarashtra.
Yeah. So that was the first chapter of Vishada-yoga, in which he's saying, like, Senayor Ubayor Madhya Ratham Stapayame Achyuta. I purposely throw some shlokas out so that Kano par girte hai, so you're reminded of the original. Na? Can you take this in the middle of the army? My Rath, my chariot. Take the army, put it in the middle. And there's significance to that, right in the middle, like a neutral zone, equal vision. It isn't just take it at a place, but the significance of it, then I really want to be fair and equitable. I want to be able to see both sides equally. And I want to understand what is right and wrong. Somebody calls this wrong and somebody calls this wrong. Put me in the middle. Let me decide for myself. Let me see myself. No? So you can, in the depth of your own thinking, you can take it to different levels. You can just leave it at the very literal level. And I would never recommend that don't take it literally. I would insist that first take it literally. The trouble when people say Gita samajhne bahut mushkil hai, very complicated hai. Most of those, I've realized that is because you dismiss the main meaning that's right in front of your eyes, simple words mein, translation, and you're looking around underneath, oversides, underneath, maybe this, maybe that, maybe that. Why don't I first take it as it is? No? Well, in fact, he says in one of the chapters, in the 12th chapter, the guy who's standing in front of you, Arjuna, Krishna says, is God. The man who's standing in front of, like me, Krishna says, isko puju ya usko puju ya, like nirgun nirakar, like here I am. That's it. It doesn't get any better or bigger than that. So I cannot tell you how many renderings and translations and satsang I've heard. वो छोड़ के बाकी दुनिया भर की बातें, कृष्ण कौन था, कैसा था, ऐसा था, वैसा था, उसका मतलब ये है ज्ञान. भैया हाथ जोड़ के पहले कृष्ण का तो नाम लो. सामने वो कह रहा है कि मैं हूँ भगवान, तो फिर बाद में पता चलेगा. So my just a reminder to not dismiss the actual words spoken. Then you can go way beyond that in your own thinking, and then there's like endless glory, literally endless glory. There's no end to how deeper you can go into this. But first things first, you gotta put the horse before the cart. So that was the first chapter, and then in response to that was